long day, I got a lot to say. It feels like I'm carrying a 2-ton weight. I go to see a friend.
Hello, I'm Msgr Patrick Winslow.
And I am Father Matthew Kauth.
And we are speaking from the rooftop.
A podcast brought to you by Tan Books, in which we invite you to join our conversation out here in the open air,
where we look out upon the world around us from the rooftop of the church and share with you what we see.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen till I know
Hello, Father Winslow.
Well, hello there.
We usually say it's been a long time. But this time we did a pretty good job.
We did, but there were technical
issues.
What do they call them? Gremlins?
There were gremlins, yes. One of our microphones broke last time, so
yeah,
I still
it's
don't
not
know.
our fault.
It's not our fault. We have been
a couple sessions may have been lost to that.
That's right. So,
which means you were never meant to hear it. Whatever things we revealed, and there were some doozies. They're never going to hear it.
Oh no! And we actually afterwards thought we should never have said that.
Yeah. So divine providence.
I didn't even know if they were published or not.
Obviously, we're joking, but that's true. That maybe they did. Maybe they.
Yeah, I'm sure that everyone's dying to hear about the juicy
tidbits of your life. Yeah. So we have new microphones that are helping us out, and we're grateful. We're grateful for Tan being able to make this possible. Being so good to us so that we can...
They even drove out and brought me the microphones. It's not like they even went over there and got them.
They're fantastic.
They're so good.
They're just really good people.
Yeah, lots of good work.
Yeah, so it looks like we're in January of 2025. That's just saying 2025 is a mind bender for me.
Happy Jubilee.
Yes. Thank you.
I mentioned to the bishop that for the Jubilee, I'd like him to wipe out all of my debt.
And I'm sure you did not get
I did not get a response on that one.
No. That's too concrete manifestation of mercy.
Yeah, no, obviously we're working together to do that.
Yes, of course. All these building projects, which is a blessing to be able to have these projects, have need for these projects, to be able to build seminaries and seminary chapels and churches and schools and all the things we're doing around the diocese. So we are blessed because that's not the case in every diocese.
That's right.
I hear of cases where they're clustering and merging and reducing, and just not here in the Carolinas. We are growing rapidly. Yeah, it's also January of 2025, which means we have our March for Life, the annual event. I've been going for, I can't even do the math in my head. Probably 30 years or more. See, 1993 was my first time in seminary, so my first one would have been January of 94.
Yeah, mine too. Wow, we would have been there at the same time.
You were the jerk who kicked my heels as I was walking. I didn't really know about the March for Life back then. Except for I just knew about, we were in the seminary and there's a March for Life. Oh, okay. That was my first experience. I'd never heard of it before. I'm wondering, how many people across the US are familiar with it. Hopefully it's gotten around a bit.
I think it certainly has. It's definitely an East Coast, population, just because of the proximity.
Some Midwesterns.
Yep.
But
it's always impressive to see people that come from afar. But it's kind of easy for us. For the 4 years we were together in Washington, we were right there, right outside of our door.
It was easy.
And 2 years in a row, I got on the front page of the paper because I was kneeling down, praying my rosary with my hands through the fencing. My rosary dangling. It was quite the shot. I staged it.
I'm sure you did.
And behind me, so if you're looking from my back, me kneeling there, on the other side of that, of course, is a wall of policemen. And then behind that is the Capitol building, or actually the Supreme Court it was.
The Supreme Court, that's what I recall.
So it was such a fun picture that I did it again next year and I got the same picture.
Yep. That was staged.
That one was more staged. I even said to our Lord, I went over to another corner and I'm like, I really do want to pray here. I like praying here like this.
Yeah.
But that was a great statement that they put in the paper.
Sure. It kind of captures it, right? Supreme Court, people praying.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. It was such a wonderful experience. My first time, met some people with whom I'm still friends to this day. People who, the carols.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a strange thing because on the one hand, you're there because of something that is so intrinsically grave, that it's something worthy of tears and of marching, and of genuine cries for justice. At the same time, I think we've always felt that it's such a gathering of Catholics that it's almost this odd sort of Catholic, I don't want to say a party, but
it's celebratory. There's a joyful hope.
Yeah, that we're together,
that
we're
this
not alone.
Isn't going to remain, that we are going to stand up for life, and that joyful hope becomes manifest in a celebratory like feel.
It does. And that has kind of made its way over the years into an annual party that we always have at the end of it. It's a gathering.
They have.
They, as in you.
As in my brother-in-law and my sister.
Well, so what happens is we're always at the end of this thing, and notoriously it's freezing. Yeah. Notoriously Washington gets slammed with snow, ice, dropping temperatures on the day of the March for Life. And so at the end of that, when we get past the Supreme Court and we're freezing cold, his relatives live not too far
from my sister Deborah, her husband Topher, and their kids, Jack, Eliza, and Kate, they all live there on the hill near Easter Market. And we walk to their house, and they have warm foods and cold drinks. And
but the first time it was just a place to gather and
it really was. Yeah, it was wonderful.
And talk and have good conversation. Now
and they're so hospitable.
They're so good.
They roll out the red carpet, and it really is a delight. And so it's expanded a bit because the seminarians oftentimes have to leave pretty early right after the march to catch a flight back to the seminary.
Or drive.
So they have so graciously opened up their home now on Thursday evening to the seminarians, so that when they come in on sometime on Thursday, they have a place to spend the evening with food. They serve them dinner and drinks, cocktails, and if they're of age.
Euchre.
And now it's turned into a euchre tournament. That happened kind of gradually and naturally. Now it's become official. There will be brackets, and there will be winners and there will be losers. So we're going to see how that pans out. But yeah, so there is a wonderful culture that surrounds this event that helps keep the witness alive.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, you think about it, as you were mentioning, the cause is grave and deeply felt. At the same time, we do things that keep the pump primed.
Yeah.
So that witness doesn't fall away. And having these great perks of getting together helps to keep that alive.
Yeah.
It really does. And as a result, over the years, I have been ordained in 1999, you in 2000, we go back because it's almost like we have to be there.
We have to be there.
That's where you're supposed to be.
We were there during the COVID. Remember that?
We were there.
And
we were
like no one marching. Where is everyone?
We were there, like all 12 people in the Basilica.
We were there after the debacle at the Capitol when they were shutting everything down.
Yeah,
we couldn't get anywhere near it.
That's right. We were there. Remember that major snowstorm when nobody came? But we were there.
I love that one.
Oh, the snow memories
are
so
beautiful.
I love the march when there's snow.
Absolutely.
But we're really grateful that the efforts across the nation have been able to contribute to the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Which everyone now understands the consequence, mainly that it didn't make abortion illegal. Rather, all it did is return the issue to the states. And some states made their laws even more grotesque, and other states restricted in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So it leaves the mission and the charge of bearing witness to life into a new frontier. And the way I think about it is, I think of it in terms of a football field. We were sitting on our own 10-yard line. Like when it was understood to be a constitutional right, that is to abort one's child, to have a constitutional right, under the premise of privacy, you couldn't do anything. All you had to do is get at least a century of that standing precedent, and you'd be pushed down to the 0-yard line, and you would never have any hope getting off of it. But we resisted, and marches like the March for Life over the years, and all of our many sincere efforts in the church and with other partners who see this issue as it should be seen clearly through the natural light of reason, we've been able to have a Supreme Court that was able to make reasonable interpretation of the Constitution, to say, no, this is not in the Constitution as a right. And that pushed us, I think, up to about the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Because now, because now people have a voice. It enables the populace, it enables the electorate to vote in people to make laws.
Right. Well, this goes back to the article you wanted to write and publish someday. They wrote that the wall that Roe built.
I did actually.
Remember that?
Yes, I did write it.
Remember that? That was years ago.
It was years ago. Yeah.
And that was back when you were still marching, because really you mean marching in a sort of an analogous sense, because typically I'm at the front and I walk all the way there with, whatever 15 rosaries that you say in the course of the time.
I think you're overestimating.
And you're always there with your nieces and nephew. Somehow you got there miraculously.
Well,
and I'm pretty sure you didn't walk there with them on your shoulders.
I typically have small bodies on my shoulders, bearing witness to life on my shoulders.
But the marching thing is just sort of analogous. Standing.
Because of the mass that we had, it was like at 11:30. So the march had already started. So we'd get there, and you kind of watch everyone and come up the hill. It's an amazing spectacle.
It is an amazing spectacle.
It is an amazing spectacle.
And it really brings in people from all sorts of walks of life. I mean, obviously the Catholics are the majority, but you have all sorts of other persons that are just using, as you said, the light of natural reason to understand that if a society can't defend its own most vulnerable citizens, then we're all in grave danger.
We're in grave danger. Yeah, this should be an easy issue.
Yeah.
And I think this, going back to that analogy, that
of marching
on the 50-yard line, that I would imagine those people who want it to be a constitutional right, they have it set as their goal to have an amendment to the Constitution to make sure that women have a right to abort children.
Right.
And we would have as our goal to have an amendment to the Constitution to protect the unborn as our newest and most vulnerable citizens.
Yep.
And but what we have now is kind of an even playing field. Because we can move toward those ends through our arguments with an electorate who can then inspire legislators to make laws that move in one direction or the other. But before, we had our hands tied behind our back.
Sure.
No matter how much we spoke up on the issue, you couldn't persuade the laws of our country into a more virtuous direction because they were intractable, because they were quote unquote protected by the Constitution.
The bat of it's a constitutional right is really big.
It's big. It's, the best you can do is try to convince people not to do it.
Yeah.
So now I think we're in the place now where the best thing we can do is to affect the culture.
Yeah.
Because the goal isn't to have a law or a constitutional right of protection that imposes on people to protect life. The goal is to have a virtuous population that wants life protected.
Sure.
And the law is to reflect that.
The law is to reflect that. And the law is to take care of those cases where someone simply doesn't see that.
Right.
And is a position of force and fear. They think that they have no other option.
Mm-hmm.
That's what law is supposed to protect us from. But,
so we're not looking for a legal sledgehammer to compel people. Rather, I think where we are in the cause for life is to make the argument to people, whether it's a faith or people just to using the sound reason, to say, look, this is what a state is supposed to do at a minimum level to protect the innocent and the vulnerable.
Right.
There are very few necessary functions of a state. That would be one that should be inarguable. And, that raises the question of, what exactly does a person receive the rights of the state over and against their parents?
Right.
I mean, certainly we have child abuse taking place in a home. The child has rights. The parents can't abuse their child. They can't say, I have a right to privacy in my home. You're not allowed in here.
Right.
No, if the child's being abused, we have a right in there to protect the child because the child has rights that are protected by the state.
Right.
So, when are those rights conferred? And that gets into the question is, when does life begin? Because it seems to me that the moment you're dealing with a human person is the moment you have to have protected right.
Sure. And those rights, in a Catholic sense, flow from a certain kind of dignity. The reason we wouldn't say that, a mosquito has rights, because a mosquito doesn't have dominion over himself. We've been given something that no other creatures have, which is a kind of self-mastery, self-possession that directs ourselves to our ends. And no one is allowed to usurp that. Sometimes we hear the argument that, you're unique and therefore you can't be infringed upon or something. Well, every snowflake is unique, and I can catch snowflakes on my tongue. I'm sorry, they're gone.
Right.
They're not valuable because they're unique. It's a nice quality of them.
Sure.
But that's not why they're valuable. We have a particular kind of ontological weightiness or goodness because of the kinds of beings we are. That God has given into our own hands the capacity to direct ourselves to our end. That kind of self-mastery, self-possession. So obviously, we can't tell when that takes place in terms of someone's rationally growing to the point where they have a sense of self in their acts and acting in accordance with that. All we have is the kind of being that's there. And the only thing that manifests that, obviously, are typically the kind of acts that they do. Well, an old person and a child they don't do those acts of directing themselves, of reasoning and willing. And yet, if that person is there, they have all those potencies, which is such an incredible responsibility for us. Like, you've got this one moment where you have all the potency there and not a capacity yet to actualize it. So insanely vulnerable that the Lord puts these persons, both the infants and the elderly, into our hands and say, I'm not going to violate you. I'm not going to harm you. I know who you are. You're a person of inalienable dignity because of this reality God has given to you of directing yourself. And right now you can't express that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cross that line. I'm going to assist you. And
what a precious gift to be able to participate in that, to be able to be sharers in the generation of life. Truly, truly wonderful.
I have, just in that vein we spoke about earlier about the crowds and the kind of euphoria that does tend to happen, because it's a back and forth, which is sort of typical in Catholic life, where the closer to God you get, the more capacity you tend to have for suffering, because you're experiencing something even better. You're diving into a deep and infinite goodness, and therefore the contrast becomes that much more acute. And you see that in these larger crowds, that you feel the angst and the pain of the injustice of it all, the unborn, and at the same time, the kind of joy of being together for a common cause. Because the beautiful thing about March for Life, it's all about one thing. Just one thing.
Right.
And everyone's on the same page. Like, if you're there, you have some kind of commonality with every other person that's there. That's a rare thing to have. Like, if you go to a concert, the only thing you've got is that we all love the person who's singing, I suppose.
Right.
And even that, or a game, a massive football game or whatever, then you got half the crowd. Which is, like Ohio State versus Notre Dame, green, versus white and red on two sides of the stadium. And we experience this a lot at the Eucharistic Congress, because there's no obligation to go to the Eucharistic Congress. Right. And yet it's just so delightful to be there with our Catholic family, because we know those people in those parishes, and they're only there for one reason, that they believe and love Jesus Christ in the Eucharist, period. That's it. Yeah. And it creates a different kind of setting.
Well, it's touching upon our purpose, right? Yeah. I mean, how often do you have an experience, a genuine community, that is to say, an experience of community that is predicated upon something that touches upon your true purpose and mission?
Right.
That's uniting. Like, for example, when I see people on television, I hear they might be Catholic, I look it up. Why do I care? I mean, I of course care. Yeah. That about people's faith in general, because I care about people. But I like it. Yeah. When they're a Catholic.
Yeah, you're part of my family.
I feel a connection at a deeper level, because I know that on your understanding of your purpose and mission corresponds to my understanding and purpose and mission
Yep.
in one's life. Now, not to get more, to get less substantial in this conversation, I did just receive a text from my brother-in-law Topher, who said, "It's so ridiculously cold outside. I can't wait to start our 3-4 day fire." So he's already preparing foods. He sent me a text last night of it looked like baked beans. I mean,
Are we firing up the pizza oven this year?
He's got a smoker going for some pork butter. So I don't know, but he's got like lots of different things already going, and his hospitality is just really unmatched.
It is. He loves it every year.
And that, but now he loves having a roaring fire in that townhouse there, so it gets it kind of nice and cozy.
It's awesome.
Deborah commented, "The march is going to be freezing." So we're being forewarned. My mother commented, said, "I'm going to be in front of the fire."
That's right.
And I responded by saying that I'm going to order earmuffs. So
well,
that's the latest.
I suppose that brings us
the March for Life dialogue.
A little bit of before we go. Years ago, folks, I was with the good Monsignor Winslow as his MC because the bishop couldn't make it that year to the March for Life. And when we had these larger masses at the Basilica of the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, I would be the MC, and Monsignor Winslow came in, and he was getting vested for Mass. And I looked down and I noticed that he had these strange things on his feet that were once known as a moon boot.
Mm-hmm. Not strange at all, I might add.
And I said, "You cannot wear those to Holy Mass." It's like, "Kauth, it's what I have." It's like he cut off the argumentation by inevitability.
And by simply saying, this is how one marches for justice.
That's
with
right.
warm
That's right.
feet.
So I have mocked
They were
him.
black.
They were black.
They were black. I was wearing proper clerical attire.
Yes.
So you'd have to really, really hone in on the material.
It didn't take a lot.
Yes, it did.
However, I was in the mountains recently in Colorado, and I just did not bring any of the shoes, basically, but my clerical shoes. I was doing some skiing, but I didn't have any of those shoes with me. I just figured I'll get some when I'm out there. And I was looking at the shoes that they had at the outfitter store, and there's one that struck my eye, just as being something sort of après-ski comfy. And they were low-riding moon boots of the new order.
And what did you do?
And I bought them, and let me just say, they were perfect. Little slip-ons.
Yeah, you see?
Little slip-ons.
You finally arrived.
To the ordinary, to the seculum, to the quotidianum, to the worldliness of the moon boot, yes, but not wearing them in the holy sanctuary.
You'll get there.
For the divine mysteries.
You'll get there. It's just one step away from
I'm not getting there with
the bare feet of Moses, right? It's just one step closer to the bare feet of Moses.
Remove your moon boots, for this is holy ground.
Or remove your shoes unless they're moon boots.
That's okay. Fine, I won't argue it.
They're nice, cozy toes. Well, good. I'm glad you've seen the light. Justice comes at a cost, but having moon boots, I think, works because it allows you to march for longer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
this from the person who doesn't do any of the marching.
I stand there. I'm there. I actually do. I really enjoy the snow when it does snow. But it looks like we're in for a real cold one this year.
Yeah.
So be it. I would say this. I too look forward to the March for Life for all the many reasons that we described. And I would just say before we go, just encourage people who've never been to go. Just because Roe v. Wade has been overturned, the mountain ahead of us in our culture is large, and the witness for life is so important. And this has repercussions when you see the youth that are present, that are coming from all these schools, mostly private schools, Catholic schools, they're coming from all over to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Once you see the light on this issue, you don't turn.
Yeah.
You just can't see it any other way. I remember when I was in college, before I really started to appropriate my faith as an adult, which is another way of saying I was open to believing anything according to my own lights. And I remember taking this question on because at that point it was a common debate question for essay writing, for English 101 or essay writing 101 or whatever the courses were in college. And I thought it through. Mm-hmm. And not by any religious argument at all. And I was entirely sympathetic to a woman in that situation or to a couple in that situation. And my heartstrings were pulled in that vetting. And yet I couldn't budge off the question of life. Mm-hmm. And I came to the other side thinking it's a baby. Yeah. And this is a life that is unfolding before our eyes. Now, granted, you could say, okay, in this form it's a zygote, in this form it's whatever. Fine, sure. I don't care. But
this stage I don't have hair. This stage I do.
Right. Exactly.
Then I don't again.
I mean, that was me. I can say that was me.
That was me.
That's how I started, and just like every one of you. And I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to encourage people in the art before they go to, if they've never been a part of it, to really think about becoming a part of it and really think about making it at least once.
Yeah. I mean, we were so different given our time period and age, because you see these little kids running around with the same sign, I am the pro-life generation. Yeah. And I was born in 73.
They feel it at some
level. I was born in
level.
73, which means I'm the abortion generation.
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade was 73.
You could have had, you could have legally been aborted. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
It's striking. When you think
really
about
striking. And these youth, they own the future. But if you do come.
When were you born?
Just a little before that. Ha ha ha.
I almost had him there. We had
only 4 years before you.
He's a 60s baby.
69. 69. But I would say if you do come, wear your moon boots.
Fair enough.
All right.
Fair enough. God bless you all.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Makes me wanna scream from the rooftop to the screen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of From the Rooftop.
For updates about new episodes, special guests, and exclusive deals for From the Rooftop listeners, sign up at rooftop.podcast.com.
And remember, for more great ways to deepen your faith, check out all the spiritual resources available at tanbooks.com.
And we'll see you again next time
From the Rooftop.